Maturity is determined by three things: honesty, remembering your social security number, and respecting bands you don't like. I know how many of y'all suffered this, but from when I was a teenager to honestly like a year or two ago, I was a massive hater for any band I didn't like. Even if I just heard one song, I'd instantly be like, oh, their music sucks, instead of acknowledging the qualities it has and how other people could potentially like them. Not saying I'm completely innocent of this, there's probably times I'm doing that in my videos, but in terms of straight up hating a band, there's only a handful I actively do. And most of the time, their music isn't the biggest problem. It's who the band or artist are as people, their beliefs, who they associate with. Like, I can comfortably say I hate Kid Rock for all those reasons, but especially the music with him. My point is, hate's a strong word. As long as a band or artist is relatively pleasant, I can appreciate something about their music, even if it's not for me. So today, I want to talk about bands I respect but don't like. And I don't feel the need to say this, but I'm gonna anyways. All these are my personal opinions based on my personal tastes and experiences. If any of y'all are fans of the people I'm talking about, don't be scared to call me out if you think I'm wrong or got songs that contradict what I don't like about them. So if you get mad at this video, you can't say I didn't warn you. Let's start with a band I've always wanted to like, REM. I know so many people who swear up and down for these guys, and the amount of times I've seen bands cover Losing My Religion or End of the World is probably somewhere in like the hundreds of thousands. Probably. And I've tried giving their albums a shot, like Monster, Automatic People, but it never stuck with me. A lot of REM's music sounds kind of flavorless. You know, they got a signature sound and style. It's easy to tell an REM song is an REM song. But a lot of them sound empty, like they're missing another instrument, like a guitar hook or a saxophone. That'd be cool, make them kind of jazzy or new wave. Some of their songs have mandolin, if that's a positive to you. But to me, the mandolin kind of borders on being a rhythmic instrument. It can still do solos and hooks, but I don't think it's the strongest lead instrument. And not to be rude, but the mandolin's nerdy. It's like the ukulele for people who pretend to know more music theory than they actually do. REM songs feel like they drag too, because they don't evolve. Underutilized instrumentation, they don't mess with the structure or shorten sections. Songs like Leavin' New York, Fall on Me, What's the Frequency, Bang and Balance, it feels like they restart when they go back into a verse. REM also sounds a bit tame to me. At least the stuff most people know them by. Like the drums could hit a bit harder, tempos could be a bit faster, some of them just meander. I actually do prefer their older stuff like Life's Rich Pageant or These Days, but this might be controversial. I'm not a fan of Michael Stipe's singing. It's kind of whiny and nasally, and sometimes it's utterly silly. You ever heard Ebo the Letter?
I wore it like a badge of teenage film stars, hash bars, cherry mash, and tinfoil tiaras.
No disrespect, but I guess you can say I'm not in a rush evermore to hear REM again. Next is Fleetwood Mac. What the hell is that name? You know, I like Go Your Own Way, Little Eyes, Landslide. The Smashing Pumpkins cover that song blows. Sorry, not sorry. But I feel I only associate them with the sound and aesthetic of Rumors. I know they were around well before that album and even before Stevie Nicks joined. But that's one of the most popular and lauded albums of all time. So it's hard for a casual listener, like myself, to disassociate them from Rumors. It's a good album, you know, I'm not stupid enough to say otherwise. But I think it's a bit hokey. Not so much the music, even though some of it borders on sounding like proto stomp clap hey. More so, again, the aesthetic. I've seen so many people ape the flowy dresses, top hats, tight ass button up shirts, and silly ass ponytails. That's more of a problem with the people who listen to Fleetwood Mac than the band itself, but anytime I see the Rumors cover or pics of the band in this attire, it makes me laugh to be so real. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but I've seen so many dudes cover their music live and get red in the face screaming shit like The Chain, Secondhand News, Don't Stop. I know they're emotional songs, but dude, calm down, it's Fleetwood Mac. And I know someone's gonna say, you know, they have more albums than Rumors, just so you know. But I'm not really into their other stuff. I'm not even that much into Rumors, so that goes double for shit like Mirage, Tango in the Night. From what I've heard, those are kinda slower, got more pop and R&B to them. I respect they evolved their sound instead of doing the same thing over and over, but songs like Mystified, As Long As You Follow, Only For You, don't do it for me. On the subject of the chain, next is the Alice in Chains. If you probably couldn't tell, I got into music through 90s alt-rock and grunge. And out of the big four grunge bands, you know, them, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice was always the one I liked the least. Of course, I like their big songs like Wood, Rooster, and Jar of Flies is amazing, even though it's not super representative of their sound. But they never hooked me like the rest of the big four. You know, Nirvana's unstable and sounds like they're gonna fall apart at any second. Pearl Jam always had the most re-listenable albums to me, and Soundgarden used a lot of weird time signatures and guitar tunings. Alice has their own qualities too. You know, Lane Staley was a great singer, Jerry Cantrell's riffs, but a lot of their songs sound kind of sludgy and gross to me. Now say it with me, everybody. That's kind of the point, but I don't want to subject myself to that for too long, which is ironic because I think a lot of their songs are unnecessarily long too. I also feel like I hear the same handful of songs over and over. You know, Facelift and Dirt are good albums, but I'm sick of hearing them, and I don't feel inclined to look for obscure B-sides, EPs, or to check out their newer stuff with William Duvall. I'm not trying to be a dick because he's the new guy, even though by now he's been in the band longer than Lane was. But he's not that exciting to me. He sounds like Dexter Holland singing Alice in Chains karaoke. Also, I saw a video of him performing Nutshell in 2019, and the dude was using an iPad on stage. That's mildly acceptable for an Alice in Chains cover band playing at a dive bar, but come on, you're in Alice in Chains. Learn the lyrics, dude. Next is the band, the Dave Matthews Band. This is a funny one. For a while, I only knew them for their big radio hits like Crash Into Me, So Much to Say, Ants Marchin'. I could tell they had cool instrumentation and depth, but I thought they were like a poppy alt-rock band like Counting Crows. It wasn't until I listened to their albums in full and saw live videos, I learned these guys are like a musician's band. They got songs with odd time signatures, weird chord progressions, just the right amount of jamming. Like they can still lock in and make radio-friendly songs when they want to, but they also like to have fun. And who doesn't like having fun? There's a lot of things I admire as a listener and musician, but there's also a lot of things that annoy me too, such as the excessive use of the violin. I don't have a psychological explanation why I don't like it. It just sounds silly being on so many of their songs. I'd probably hate it less if it was used more sparingly. Like it should be a special occasion when they whip out the violin, not an almost every song type of thing. I also gotta point out Dave Matthews singing. Objectively speaking, he's a good singer. You know, he can hit notes and shit. I just can't help but imitate him whenever I hear his music. She's a wanna be the ice cream parlor wizard. And I know this is a thing with all jam bands, but from my experience with Dave Matthews fans, they try really hard to make the band a style or character trait. Maybe not to the same extreme as Deadheads, but in a similar category. I'm not a fan of the Grateful Dead either, but they had a style at the very least. Dave Matthews Band, as objectively good as they might be, they're like one of the whitest bands out there. What style is there to speak of? But I can understand why they have fans. They write complex music, got a bunch of studio and live albums. There's something fans can latch on to. Because next is a band I also didn't know had such a big following, and honestly, I don't know why. Sublime. I understand why people like them, like I like their big hits and the self-titled album, and this might just be an extreme example, but I know people that consider Sublime to be on the same level as Nirvana in terms of like importance, their impact on music. Meanwhile, I always saw them as like fun party music or stuff you'd hear in like a best of 90s playlist, not as a whole movement, you know? Maybe Sublime's one of those bands I really needed to be there to love. Like if I was a God-fearing member of the 90s California skater scene, all their albums would have been triple platinum for me. But I also dodged the ska punk bullet as a kid. You know, I like a few bands like Streetlight Manifesto, Real Big Fish, but a lot of it kind of sounds the same to me, especially if it's got horns. They all have the exact same trombone hook, like ba-dum-bum, ba-da-bum-bum-bum. There's definitely a big difference between those guys and Sublime. Like, I can only think of a handful of their songs with horns. But that doesn't matter, because a lot of Sublime songs sound the same to me too. Mostly because all of them are about smoking weed or sex, and I'm not gonna be a condescending millennial and say that ruins their music, but it fuels my interpretation of them being fun party music. I'm not gonna base my entire life around this band, that's silly. It's cool they're still making music with Bradley Knowles' kid. In fact, I almost saw him at Sonic Temple 2023, but my friends and I saw Deftones instead. they were kind of whatever. They're another one for me too. I enjoy what I've heard, like Sex Tape, Head Up, Shove It, but lots of people I don't like really like Deftones, so they become kind of a negative association band for me. That's not the band's fault, but anytime I see someone recreate the around the fur camera angle, I do a visible full body cringe. Also, that Sonic Temple show, it wasn't that great. It wasn't terrible, but I feel like I made the wrong decision seeing them over Sublime, even though they probably would have been okay at best too. But according to my Deftone friends, which I do have, a lot of their shows they played around this time weren't that great. But nowadays, they've gotten better. If that's the case, I'm happy for them, but I don't think I'm gonna see him again. Next, we got Bruce Springsteen. I mentioned this before because I watched this biopic deliver me from nowhere for a video. I only saw it because he's played by Philip Seymour Gallagher himself, Jeremy Allen White. It's fine. I probably would have liked it more if I liked Bruce Springsteen more, but here we are. I've always felt his singing's kind of rambly. So many of his songs sound like long-winded stories that take forever to get to the point. They don't have enough repetition to hook me, you know? You gotta trapeze with repetition of music. Too much makes a song boring, and not enough makes it hard for anything to stick with you. Not all of Bruce's songs have this problem. I can name some I genuinely like, especially when he starts using synthesizers like Secret Garden, I'm on Fire, Tougher Than the Rest. But this song in particular tripped me up. I don't know if it's just me, but it sounds like Bruce is doing a southern accent. I'm not well versed in my Bruce lore, but did he go through a southern phase in his career? Because I swear I hear it on other songs too, like The Rising. But even though I'm not into his music, I still gotta give credit to Born in the USA for being a song people misunderstand to this day. Even presidents, from Reagan to Trump, thought it was a patriotic pro-American song, instead of being a harsh, scathing critique. It's like the people who didn't know Rage Against the Machine was a political band too. Like, how stupid do you have to be for this shit to fly over your head? Okay, one more. I've said this more times than I can count. I'm not that into the Beatles. Of course, I respect them out of obligation. You know, the last 60 plus years of music wouldn't sound like the way it does without these guys. Even if I'm not directly inspired by any of them, musicians I am inspired by sure as shit are. But I didn't grow up listening to them or learn how to play any of their songs until recently. And I think part of that was because I knew they were so influential and heard their impact in everything in one way or another. So I felt like I got the picture and just never gave them the time of day. I was an arrogant little shit for thinking this, and I realized me not liking them is self-inflicted, but their music never had any sentimental value to me. I don't think music needs that for you to enjoy it, but I don't really feel anything when I listen to the Beatles. I know I gotta respect them, but I'd listen to the Kinks over them any day. Again, I did this to myself, but that's just how I feel. Now, I don't take pleasure in being one of the few freaks out there that's not into the Beatles. Like, I'm not gonna flaunt disliking an unfathomably popular and influential band. Not liking popular things doesn't make it cool. It's why you don't like said popular things that makes it cool. And if any of your reasons are funny, weirdly personal, or in a YouTube video, they're valid. My reasons are probably one of those. Alright, I'm gonna call it here. As always, thank you all very much for watching. Like I said in the intro, these are all my personal opinions based on my personal blah blah blah. So if any of y'all got counterpoints to my criticisms of these bands, let me know in the comments. Also tell me bands you respect but don't like, or at least actively don't listen to. Just remember to keep it, and say it with me, civil. Shoutouts of course to my patrons, and I'll see y'all next time to talk about the adventure of a lifetime music video.